Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. This is Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Mentor Select serves parents who are raising teens. Every week, Derek interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. All while parenting them to be successful adults, focusing on social and emotional development, something that's left out of the classroom, but not in ours. Be sure to subscribe, share, and rate. This is Mentor Select, and this is your host, Derek Phillips.
Welcome to episode 82 of the Mentor Select podcast. I am thrilled that you joined us for an exciting, value-packed interview. Parents, today you are in for a real treat. We have Principal Marla Sullivan on the Mentor Select podcast. How are you, Marla?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Glad you could join us. So how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's a chilly kind of January day in Texas, but it's a great day.
Yeah, certainly could be a lot worse. I'm originally from Indiana, so our winters are a little different than Texas winters.
Hardcore winters in Indiana.
Right. Yeah, blizzards. Are you originally from Texas?
Yes, my whole life.
Right, a Texan. Love it. Yeah, awesome. So Marla, our focus for the Mentor Select podcast is really to provide resources for parents who have teenagers and looking to better connect with them and just better prepare their teenagers to be successful adults. How long have you been an educator?
30 years.
Holy cow, 30 years. Education, working with kids. Whew.
Your blood.
Bless you. I'm sure you have some great stories and some great experiences. So we certainly want to get into that. What was your inspiration to become an educator? And
truly, I think it's all I ever wanted to do. My grandmother was a teacher. Both of my parents were band directors. And so I grew up with the school environment and hearing the school language and just kind of seeing all sides of it. Because my mom was at a middle school, my dad was at a junior college, and my grandmother was elementary.
Wow, definitely your blood.
Yeah. And so once I started working with kids, I couldn't imagine anything else. And then as I moved through my career and became an administrator, it helped open my eyes to see that then not only are you working with kids, but you're working with growing teachers and you're working with parents and helping them find new ways to help their kiddos succeed and ultimately become successful adults.
Yeah, that's ultimately the goal, certainly. And do you have kids as well?
I do. My son is 28, and he and his wife and my granddaughter live outside of Tampa, Florida, and he's a coach and teacher.
And his blood as well.
Right. And then my daughter is 25 and lives in Houston, and she is an event design and manager.
Okay. Awesome.
She graduated from A&M, and my son graduated from Prairie View A&M.
Oh, Aggies, huh?
Always.
Wow, awesome. So you experienced it from both sides, being a parent and also being a teacher and administrator in schools. Fantastic. So can you tell us what's been some of your experiences working with teens, and as far, especially focus on some of the things that you see that has helped teens become successful adults to make that transition?
I think one of the things that I probably didn't realize as much in the classroom as I did when I first became an assistant principal. And of course, at that point, then you're dealing with so many discipline issues.
No one wants to go see the principal. You're in trouble.
And I just, coming from the classroom, I was always the kids' biggest cheerleader. I mean, whatever obstacle they had, you can do this, you got it. When I taught music, kids who struggled academically and struggled behaviorally with other teachers, we just clicked. And I always have had a special place in my heart for kids who struggle and building them up and helping them work past it and kind of change the story that's in their head of, I'm not good at this, or I'm stupid, or whatever they were thinking. And so as an assistant principal and then principal, helping them realize, you're not a bad person. Yeah, you may have made a not very wise choice, and there's a consequence to go with it, but there's always a way to learn from it. And that was kind of the nature of the conversation that I always had with parents, because, you got the range of parents who were apathetic, but then the other parents who came down too hard and wanted to just, you're a bad person, you're horrible, nobody wants you. And I was the first one to say, no, that is not it at all. There's nobody on this planet walking around perfect.
We're all sinners.
Exactly. And so to expect a 6-year-old or a 13-year-old or whatever to be perfect, that's insane.
It is. Yeah.
And so it really was always on my heart to help parents better understand their kiddo and understand the choices they're making. Don't ask why. They don't know. They don't. I mean, that's just, you can't know that. Why did you spill that milk? Why didn't you turn in your homework? Because you're a kid. So, I took it very, very personally on the rare occasions that I did have to send a child to alternative school.
Okay.
Because I took that as a failure. I hadn't found whatever that one thing was. And, and so parents, I really worked hard, and especially in these latter years of my career, on building that strong partnership with parents and having them, come in and say, if I'm going to call you to school, I'm not calling you to school to pick up your kiddo. We're going to talk. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a plan. And always being willing to reinvent the wheel, as it were, the kids succeed, because any behavior, there's something triggering it. There's something that the kid wants that they don't have. There's something they need and it's not being met, whether they're struggling academically. And so it's better to be bad than for your friends to know that you can't read.
Yeah.
Whatever those things are, helping the parents understand that and open the lines of communication, because a lot of times the kids just want to be heard.
Whew, Marla, you start off giving a lot of gems there. Wow. Let's see, where do I want to start to unpack that? Now, you talked about as far as finding out really what that trigger is. As you mentioned, that behavior is more so is going to be just basically a reaction, something that's triggering it.
Right.
What are some effective ways that you're able to do that, and also working with parents to help them identify the triggers and the one thing?
Really talking with the students. We used what was called a reinforcer survey at my school, and it was just a series of questions asking the kids, you wish your teacher would do more of this, you wish your teacher wouldn't do this. When you do something good, do you want a note home? Do you want a phone call home? Really finding out what motivates them. A lot of times they can't tell you, but then you just ask them, would you rather have hot dogs or hamburgers? Would you rather have pizza or ice cream? And so it almost feels like a game, but it kind of breaks down the walls and the kids begin to trust. And I had a student actually sent to me as a first grader. What I was told was he needed a fresh start.
Okay.
And so he came from another school, and just things were not successful there. I'd read the discipline history, and of course my first thought was, okay, this is an adult problem, this is not a kid problem, because y'all are doing the same things and wanting different results. Pretty sure that's the definition of insanity. And so I called the parents in for a meeting and said, this is your chance. He's got this fresh start. Here's our expectations at school. Here's how we do business. And they're, oh yes, we're on board. And I said, I promise you, I'm not going to send him home, because that's what he wants. So we're going to work together. But if I call you and say, I need you here, I need you here. Right. And the first 4 days, he was a destructive little boy. And, so there was already, at 6 academic gaps forming because he just acted out to avoid work. Okay. And so I just kind of was like, all right, you got to do something different. And so I think I shared with you my campus, our acronym for our awards was OWLS. Okay. And so I created OWL Camp, which was basically boot camp, but I presented it to him and his parents as, this is how we do business, and we're straight up working on compliance at this point. Okay. Following directions, not tearing stuff up. And so
start with the basics.
That is the very basics. Yeah. And, so for every successful day, he earned time back with his peers. First at unstructured things like recess or lunch or going to music and PE. And the longer the success lasted, then he would push in and do academics with them, with the OWL Camp teacher there for support. But the kicker was, if there was even one outburst, hardline, one outburst, you read that to day one.
Okay. Wow.
And so there were lots of resets and lots of tears. And then about a week, and Dad came up a couple of times and exerted some parental influence. And, and I told the
quotes.
boy, I told the little boy, I said, we can do this easy or we can do this hard, but your parents chose for you to be here. And so we're going to make it work.
So like he wasn't giving up on him.
I was not. He had earned lunch with a friend and I baked him cookies. And the very next day, and that was like 10 days in, the very next day, he had to reset. I went home and cried.
Oh.
But he was, at that particular point, then there was the break of, I don't want to start over. And I said, but you knew the choice before you made this choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last reset. And he's a successful fifth grader this year.
Wow.
Has gone from, he came to me with 20 plus discipline referrals as a 6-year-old. I think he had 1 referral in 4th grade.
Wow.
So he is my true success story. And it was just an out of the box thing. The parents partnered with me, and he's got to learn to accept no as an answer. He's got to learn to be sure I will about stuff he doesn't want to do. And so we've used it very successfully with several students. He's the biggest success because of the parent partnership.
How important are those parent partnerships?
Huge. Because, that's who that's where your formative years are. That's who you go home to at night. And I can be successful with kiddos when I don't have parent support, but it's really hard on a kiddo to learn to compartmentalize, for lack of a better word. Okay, inside these walls, these are the rules, and this is how I act. And then when I go home, it's this other way.
Okay, yeah.
And that's hard. I hate to give up on forming a parent relationship, even when it's, when it's difficult. And I think, it's like, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that probably some of those more difficult parents, it's that they feel responsible, but embarrassed. And it's kind of that cycle of, this is my child and I've lost control.
Yeah.
And now this person wanting to work with me. And if I knew what to do, I'd have done it. I realized the parents love their kiddos and want them to succeed and are doing all they know to do.
Right. And that's certainly one of my just motivations for this type of podcast, because essentially we're mentoring the parents. And I think a lot of times parents feel like they should automatically know what to do, but that's not the case. And they have to learn and make mistakes and continue to improve.
Totally on the job training.
Exactly. There's no manual.
And that is different. I have a son and a daughter, and there are a lot of similarities in them, but parenting a son and a daughter are very different.
I can't imagine. I have a 7-month-old daughter, and I'm just getting started.
You're just getting to the good stuff. It's wonderful. Now I have a 3-year-old grandson with my bonus daughter, and then my granddaughter will be 2 in June.
Wow.
I love watching now my kids be parents, because it's affirming. Every once in a while, I'll just text them, I'm so proud of y'all, because you're doing such an awesome job, and they're not afraid to say no and mean it.
Yes, indeed. I want to dig a little deeper in terms of the OWL camp and talk about which compliance, just going back to the basics.
Sure.
Just why do you feel that was so successful and has been so successful, not only for the young man you mentioned, but has been successful with other kids who are deemed as problem kids or just having issues?
I think it's easy, and I see it anytime I get a kiddo that needs to go through OWL camp, and you can see where adults have given up, not the parents per se, but adults that were teachers, and I can't stand the idea of labeling a child when they're young. They don't know. And I do believe that kids want boundaries and they want structure. And unfortunately, just the way society is now, I see so many kiddos being handed some kind of a device, sitting in the grocery cart or sitting in the car seat, or they're handing them a device, and there's not any real interaction between the adult and the child.
Right.
And I think back to when my kids were little, and it was just nonstop. Oh, that's a cow. What's a cow say? What does cow start with? Just developing their language, but engaging them. I think kids miss that when it doesn't happen. And sometimes it just can't because it's a single parent and they've got to work to put food on the table. And so then it does fall to the schools a lot of times to kind of set that structure and give them some boundaries and help them establish a routine so that they can experience success. Because if all a kid knows is I get attention when I'm in trouble, game on.
Right. Exactly. Crying out.
By the time they get to junior high, then the trouble they get into is big.
Yeah. Then by high school, it's definitely even bigger.
You're going to jail.
Going to jail, yeah.
You know, I would cry over kids and, you know, just even the ones that I did have to send to alternative school, especially back when I had 5th and 6th graders. And, you know, and just say to them, I want more for your life than what you're choosing. And I want to help you, but you gotta meet me halfway.
Yeah, I hate labels as well. And you said in situations where the kids did get in trouble and you felt the parents were coming down too hard, maybe calling them stupid or bad or horrible. What's the impact on that on kids when parents do that?
Crushing, because that becomes their inner voice. And whether they're 5 or 6 or whether they're, you know, in those teenage years that are already hard and awful and peer pressure and all the things, if the people who are supposed to love you and care for you are telling you you're stupid and you're a failure, it's so hard to get that out of their head. And they begin to believe it. And then their self-talk becomes that voice.
Totally agree. That's why, just those positive affirmations can so valuable, really formulating how they see themselves versus negative labels.
At my school, we started a tradition in 2016, because I went to a leadership experience called High Five out in San Diego, and it's life-altering. At High Five, there's closing circles at the end of each of the sessions. I brought that back to my campus, and at High Five, the mantra within the circle is, I am at choice, I raise my vibe, and then some affirmation, whatever word you've picked for that experience, which mine was I am trusting, and then I choose joy. And so I brought that back to my staff, and many, many of my teachers started doing opening circles in the morning to set the tone for the day using, you know, say Rascal Flatts, My Wish, or using Carrie Underwood's The Champion, just uplifting music. And the kids lead the affirmations with, I am strong, I am smart, I am inspiring. And they have to come up with that adjective about themselves being positive. It is the most powerful experience to walk into a classroom of 4th graders or 5th graders and see them hand in hand singing a song and then going around the circle with affirmations for one another.
Oh, wow. I certainly didn't experience anything like that in school. Would have been nice. Definitely. Going back to the reinforcer survey, how did that first come about?
My school district used to use Ames Web behavior tracking system. And so that was just one of the tools in there. And even when we stopped using that program and went more towards the response to intervention model, that reinforcer survey was too valuable of a tool not to continue to use.
Okay.
And it just, especially when, you know, a lot of young teachers who may not know necessarily how to start that conversation with the kiddos. So it gave them more or less a script to follow. And then eventually it just becomes very natural to have that conversation. And I mean, even when we had pre-K 3 on our campus, we could have them when they were in that place where they didn't want to talk. I just hold out both palms of both hands and I would tell them, you know, they're going to just touch one hand to indicate a choice. And so then it was a game, you know, cat or dog, and then they would touch whichever hand, chair or floor, and just going through getting them to make choices in that safe way of, even though they didn't have to talk. And so then that helped them learn that, you know, when it was going to be time for math, and so you might initially say math or reading, you know, see their preference, but then they learn that there's going to be a choice. And sometimes they get to choose, and sometimes teacher gets to choose, or sometimes mom gets to choose. But it was safe. Breaking down walls with kids who don't want to talk of whatever age.
Gotcha. I know you mentioned the importance of trust earlier. What role does that play in terms of breaking down those walls and communication?
It's everything. I mean, you think of us as adults, we don't want to just spill our guts to a stranger who we don't have any relationship with. We don't know if they care. We don't know what they're going to do with the information we give them. And so, and I mean, it goes all the way back. I mean, you see it on Twitter and all sorts of things still. Maslow before Bloom's. They've got to feel safe. They've got to feel loved. They've got to feel cared for before they're going to be open and ready to learn.
Right.
And I mean, and that's the same with my teachers. It's a first name basis, building relationships with them so that, I mean, I've been through deaths of pets with my teachers. I've been through loss of children, loss of parents. I mean, you name it. And
it's a family.
I didn't tell you any of that stuff in principal school. I'm just saying. But it's when they know you care. When I went to my campus, it's 3 buildings. The structure of it is it's different than most elementary schools. And the teachers on the side with pre-K through 2nd grade didn't know the teachers on the side with 3rd through 5th grade. And so I spent that first year using a lot of John Gordon books, team building, breaking the ice, getting people to know each other. Started sending, I called it Friday Reflections, and it was, no lie, just a whim, a Friday email to kind of let them see through my eyes the things I had seen around the campus.
Okay.
And I could not believe the response to a simple email. Just the feedback from the teachers of, wow, we didn't know all this was going on in our school. Because you get in your room and you just do your thing and you don't know what anybody else is doing. So 8 years later, I haven't missed a Friday.
Wow. Cool. Just how a small gesture like that can really help connect and, like I said, build that trust and relationships.
And it creates that culture of family. And in a society where many times the family structure is not necessarily the traditional family that I grew up with.
Right.
It's creating a family inside the walls of a school because the kids do spend a lot of time there. And it needs to be their safe place. And part of learning is failing. And so it's got to be safe to make those mistakes and continue to learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned as far as transitioning from the classroom into being an administrator, as a teacher, the kid's biggest cheerleader. But of course, as the principal, you have to do more discipline actions. How are you able to make that transition? Because I'm sure parents feel like or not necessarily make that transition. How are you able to balance the role of being a cheerleader and a disciplinarian? Because I'm sure a lot of parents feel like they're in that role where they want to do both or maybe struggling to do both or balance it.
We implemented at every campus that I was an administrator, we implemented a positive behaviors initiative and supports. And then Randy Sprick has a book called Champs, which is just kind of a structure for how you have conversation in the classroom, how you get help. What is our activity? What's the movement? What does it look like when I participate? And the last S is, what does success look like? And so teaching the kiddos for every place, whether it's the hall or the restroom or standing in line for the bus or in the cafeteria or the playground, teaching them exactly what was expected, giving them examples and non-examples of appropriate ways to stand in line, and then celebrating their successes. And, so it was a learning curve for the teachers to learn that, but no lie, implementing it year 1, it was a 60% reduction in any kind of discipline referrals.
Wow.
Because then they knew what was expected. I mean, I don't know any of us that want to go to a job and they say, all right, get to work. But they don't tell you what your task is or what the final product is.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Good luck. And I was listening to Brene Brown, Dare to Lead, and she mentioned in there about a learning moment with her team where, the person had completed the task, but it wasn't what she had in her head. And so the new conversation with her team is, what does done look like? And that was just like, holy cow, that's brilliant. Because we may all be, we know we want all of our kids to make a year's worth of growth this year. But what's that look like? What's the target? Yeah. What is the target? What's it look like? And God knows in the state of Texas, that target seems to change every year.
Moving target.
But, for me and my staff, and it's like, I want the academic piece there, 100%, I do. But at the end of the day, If the kids leave my school a successful adult or a successful learner who can think and problem solve, they're going to be a successful adult someday.
Absolutely. Yes. And that foundation.
Yeah. STAR test, that does not make a successful adult. It's just a test. And I've never asked any potential employee, what did you score on the STAR or the GRE? I've never really even asked. I mean, their transcripts are there. But what I want to know is, do you love kids and do you want to help kids learn? And so I think, and even that, I have that conversation with parents that, yes, the test is the stick that we're hit with, but it's not who your child is. It's 3 days out of the year. And I personally don't want to be judged on just 3 days of a year.
Well, I don't either.
And so are they learning? Are they growing? Because my son's success, my daughter's success, my success, none of those look the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that kind of coming back to, I'm still their biggest cheerleader because I'm celebrating their growth. I'm celebrating my Camp kiddo to go from 20 plus referrals in a semester to 1 in a year.
I'll take it.
I will take that all day long and twice on Sunday because he's not a straight A student yet. But he's got the capacity, and now he believes in himself. That's
the key. Once he believes in himself, then, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. And so, and I think it's so important now that the schools let kids know that there are options out there that don't involve college.
Right.
Because you can be highly successful from a trade school or any other type of thing. Coming from a district where we were right near the military, that's a great calling as well.
Yeah.
But I also know that there are mechanics and auto body techs who make more money than I do because they're good. And, I couldn't do that, but they're highly successful. And so I think kids need to be aware. 5th grade's not too young to start. They need to be aware of career options.
Yes, indeed.
Do and take care of their family and live in a nice house and have a car and all the things that are important, but they don't have to go into debt necessarily to do that.
Right. Yeah, I love that advice. It's just because I believe nothing's for everyone. So I can't tell you what's for you. You really have to determine that, be exposed to different things and decide. For me, right out of high school, I joined the Army, and that was a good thing for me. It led to other opportunities.
And it does. And I have so many teachers who are military spouses, and nothing but admiration and appreciation for them because that's a hard life. Parents, the sooner they can get their kids in to speak with a guidance counselor and find out what's out there, it's so important. Because, my daughter, I told you she does event design and management. Her degree at A&M, after she got accepted into the business school and absolutely despised business classes, she went to see a general studies advisor and who was able to look at her transcript and everything she'd transferred in with, so she didn't lose any credits, but she changed her major. So her degree is a bachelor's degree in agriculture, Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in recreation parks and tourism.
Okay.
With an event planning certification.
Wow.
I'd never heard of that.
Me neither.
I knew what she wanted to do and she knew what she wanted to do, and business classes seemed logical for any type of management of a thing.
Right.
I'm like, agriculture? What?
That is cool. Yeah, I have a friend she works for the city of Dallas, and basically she builds new parks. So I never heard of that job before. Sounds fun. I love to play at parks, so to build them, that has to be cool.
Yeah. And it was one of those until you get to a person who can guide you and say, okay, because that was the first thing the person said, what do you want to do?
Yep, exactly.
So that, and of course, okay, so that's an 18-year-old having that conversation, but
start early
and, take some of those aptitude tests to find out what you're interested in. And then go ask questions.
Indeed.
Heaven knows we can't know it all as a parent.
No one knows it all. Yes, indeed. And also what it really highlights too, like you mentioned several different books and like different conferences and things that you attend. I'm sure being an educator, you're also just a consummate learner.
Yes.
But I think that's a good insight for parents, though, as well. As parents, we have to be consummate learners. We have to always be looking, okay, what's cutting edge ways to my teen?
Well,
So
and
important.
even Covey's got that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Well, he's also written
Families.
7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I think tapping into the resources that are out there and,
Exactly.
Getting the kiddos. I mean, if they're not one who likes to sit down and turn a page in a book, I'm a huge fan of Audible.
Me too. I love Audible. I'm probably going to download the teens one today. You mentioned several other books. I'm already taking notes for it. I'm listening to. Now, the Champs one, is that a book or is that just a program?
Yes.
Champs is a book. Who's
Champs is a book. Randy Sprick.
Okay, awesome.
And it's designed for implementation within the schools, but the structure of that program is really good. And so, I mean, my kindergartners and first graders can go up to the board and take the lead and champ the next activity that they're going to do.
Yeah. Okay.
What is our conversation level for working at stations? And they'll tell you voice level 1, which is almost a whisper. Okay, how do we get help? And whatever. I mean, they can do it like a pro.
That structure and letting them know, okay, what's expected.
And I think that's where, I mean, if they learn it that young, it sets them up for success when they go to junior high. And it also, I mean, within that structure gives them a little more freedom because, I mean, my school, we use flex seating. So that means not assigned seats. We've got bean bags. Kids can sit on the floor. They can sit on pillows.
Oh wow. Give them options. I like that.
It's like, how do you learn the best? But they know with that privilege is the responsibility of meeting the expectations.
Gotcha.
And yes, if they can learn that at 6, they can carry that into teen years and into high school and adulthood.
Right. No doubt about it. Now, earlier we were talking about just the constraints of, there are a lot of single parents who they have to work a lot just to provide. What are some strategy tips for them that they can still have that structure at home, still connect with their kids, really maximize the time they do have with their teens and also celebrate their teens' growth?
I'm a big believer in visual schedules. And so, whether it's mom's schedule on the board or dad's schedule on the board, something that their kiddo knows, at this day, at this time, I get the time with this adult in my life. Okay. And it doesn't have to be time going out to eat and doing anything expensive. It's just time where turn off the devices and have a conversation. Here's a time I'm available to help with homework. Or let's just talk about your day. I heard Dave and Rachel Hollis, big podcast fan of Rise Together, and they've got their oldest kiddos in junior high, and then their youngest is like 2. But he was talking about at the mealtime, instead of just saying, how was your day? Where a lot of kids are like, fine. What'd you do today? Nothing. And that's teens, and it's
right
to that age. But they flipped their questions, and I was like, dang, I wish my kids were kids again. Because they asked them, who were you nice to today? Who was nice to you today? Okay. Did you see anybody who wasn't nice?
Those open-ended questions.
Yeah. Were you able to help?
Wow.
And I thought that is genius, because if you just say, did you see somebody else not being nice? That's a safe thing to say. Yeah. So, without snitching out your friend, you're just saying, I saw this thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they take it that step further of, well, could you help? Did you help?
Wow.
And I mean, what an awesome way to be raising kids now.
Right.
To make them aware, because it's like, okay, yeah, I know what it means to be nice, but do you recognize when somebody's not being nice, when somebody is, being mean to somebody who can't defend themselves?
That's awesome. I love that.
And I think if that was the case, I just think of how different junior high and high school would be.
Right.
Somebody asked kids those questions.
Yeah, definitely help a lot with bullying and a lot of those issues. Absolutely. Wow, Marla, he's given us a lot of just great strategies, tips, and resources. As we get ready to wrap up this interview, I always like to ask my my experts, in addition to what you've already mentioned, what are some things that at least one thing that you see that really is working with teens as far as preparing them to be successful adults?
I think it's important to validate their emotions.
Okay.
Because, I can remember as a fairly young teacher, and I had a parent that was upset with me, and my principal said, it may not be accurate, but their perception is their reality.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes.
I was furious, but I was like, because it was not the reality. It was not the case at all. But then all of a sudden, fast forward a few years, and I'm the principal, and I'm like, dang, that's the thing. It's real to them.
Right.
And so when a child of any age is upset about something, upset sad or upset mad, whatever, it's real to them.
Right.
And to, if it's a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it hurts them.
Time.
We know they're going to get past it.
Right.
But
they don't know that in that moment.
They don't know that then, and they just need to know that it is okay to feel the way they feel.
Wow. Okay.
And then I'm here to help you get through that. You can't run from the feelings. That's not healthy. And don't bury them. That's not healthy. So you got to feel all the things and talk about it when you're ready to talk about it, but know that mom's here or dad's here or aunt is here, whoever that significant adult is.
Right.
They're not going to make light of it.
Wow. What a great gem to end with. I knew you had more in you. Wow. Love it, love it, love it. And that's a dual benefit for me. I get to share just all of this great insight from experts like yourself with the listeners, and I also get to learn as well. So it's a win-win for everyone. Indeed. Well, Marla, it's been great. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to speak with us. And if the listeners want to get in contact with you, what would be the best contact? My
Twitter is at MCS_MSS. And then I have a blog that's powerfulprinciple.wordpress.com.
I'd highly recommend parents to check out your blog and hit you up on Twitter. Because, she got a lot more that you can share with us. We're just scratching the surface. Yes, indeed. Marla, again, really appreciate it and definitely wish you the best in this next phase of your career.
Well, thank you so much. I am about to embark on writing a book.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I kind of worked on the organization of it and talk to some folks about the self-publishing process, and that my goal is completion of that in 2020.
Fantastic. That was a wonderful interview with Principal Marla Sullivan. She gave us so much valuable insight, resources, tips, guidance. Really want to thank her a lot for that. And just to quickly recap, I love the reinforcement survey. It's really awesome to get insight directly from your teens on what motivates them, because you can use that to determine how to best influence them. Oh, I like that a lot. Also, Principal Sullivan talked about the importance of just building that trust to tear down walls. So you tear down those walls of communication. And I like the questions, kind of like those open-ended questions, like, hey, what did you see today? What made you smile? Those type of questions really opens up the lines of communication, so you don't get just so standard, hey, how was your day? I was fine, just to know how teenagers are. So parents, ask those open-ended, engaging questions to get just a better communication, to know what's going on in your teen's life. Also, I like Principal Sullivan mentioned the visual schedule, the board, where your teens will know, hey, mom or dad is free during this time period. This is the time where I can ask for help with homework. We can talk. We can spend quality time. So even for those single mothers who have to work a lot, just if you have that visual board up where your teen will know, okay, mom is at work, but hey, during this period, she'll be home and available to interact with me. I think that's very important. Well, I hope that you all got a lot of value from that interview. I know I did. I was taking a lot of notes. So I encourage you to check out Principal Sullivan's blog. I'll put the link to the blog in the show notes. Also follow her on Twitter. I'm sure she shares a lot of valuable insight on how to engage and connect with teens on her Twitter. Well, until next week, remember that it takes a village to raise a teen.
You've been listening to Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Hosted by Darrich Phillips. Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. We get it. That's why Darrich interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. That's why we do the show. Be sure to share Mentor Select with other parents of teens. Follow us on social media at Mentor Select to stay up to date on the latest tips, strategies, and resources for parenting teens. Send your questions and comments to darrich@mentorselect.com. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes. Till next time, this is Mentor Select.